Just this one over here in this lounge. There we go. There we go. I like that. I like to see people. Are we good? All right. Well, welcome to a CRES Chat. We do this every month. This is one of my favorite things to do. I got my dear friend Coach Kim and Todd Hopkins. And every time I say Coach Kim, I forgot I don't forget your last name, but it's like two.
That's it.
Plus, he introduced
McDaniel.
you as dear friend. He's like, I got my dear friend, Coach Kim, and then I have
Todd
Hopkins.
Who's also a dear friend.
I'm like, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Also
Thanks for
a dear
thinking
friend.
about that.
Yeah. So, so this is our CRES Chats we do this every month. This is a series on mental health. The last one we had Dr. Carlos and Matt, and it was it's talking about stress and anxiety. I know a couple of the people that were here for that one, and I just thought it was so fantastic and went by way too fast. But I really learned a lot from that, and so this one is kind of like the nuts and bolts. This is all about achieving and maintaining a healthy mindset. And mindsets, I believe, are the core to what we do as people and what makes us achieve greatness or not. And so, with that said, I'm gonna kind of let my guests here introduce themselves and what they do, a little bit of their past and who they are. And I'll let Miss Kim go first.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Jeremy. I'm excited to be here. My name is Coach Kim, and I am a life coach, a lifestyle coach, an author, and a speaker working with women over 30 who are trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. I think a lot of us get lost in being told what to be, performing based on other people's standards, and losing ourselves in the process. So I like to help women go back into the tool shed and dig deep and figure out purpose-driven living and how they can be excellent at who they are called to be, designed to be, so that they can make the best positive impact on those around them. I've been here in Tampa for about 2 years. I'm a local Baltimore, Maryland native, and I'm super excited to be here. And I will say that I've seen a lot of people here who also need coaching because guess what? People in many spaces, in every space, even globally, are wearing one face and then they're living another life. And that's, I think, exactly what we're dealing with mental health, the mask that people put on in front of them so that they can be accepted, acceptable, but then there's a lot of brokenness on the inside. So I'm excited to talk about this tonight, Jeremy.
I am too. I think it's very much needed. Todd, who are you?
I'm just here to hear Kim talk, really. But my name's Todd Hopkins. 30 years ago, started a company called Office Pride. So we're a commercial cleaning franchisor. We help people start, own, and grow commercial cleaning businesses really all around the United States. I have a wife and 3 kids, 3 grown sons who are all business guys. My passion is really entrepreneurship. I'm here because I probably intense and stress easy, and I've written a book about how to stress less. So, but all my applications are really to like business owners because that's what I know. So I guess Kim asked me though, just so you know, she go, "What's your connection to mental health?" And I go, "I don't have any. I need that. So, but I know for one, I'm always trying to get better at that. So what I do know is I haven't arrived, but I definitely have figured out some things that help me a lot as a stressed business owner, stress a lot less. And I enjoy teaching that to people. And so maybe that's why you have me here. I don't know, Jeremy.
Well, I know why I have both of you guys here. And Todd, you just wrote a book called Don't Say the B Word.
Stop using the B word.
Stop using the B word. Not don't. Stop using the B word.
My wife hates that title, but it's catchy.
It is catchy. But that is all about mindset. That's all about a mindset shift. And that's what tonight's all about, is talking about achieving, and then also not just achieving, but maintaining a healthy mindset. So with that, this is really casual. You guys, we just kind of relax. No one else is here. We're hanging out, drinking some coffee or some water. These mic stands can move wherever you want them to. Make sure you just ride up in them like this. And it's great. We're going to have a Q&A towards the end. But let's talk about what, in your own words, And we kind of popcorn this stuff. That's how this works. We're just talking. In your own words, let's talk on what is a bad or unhealthy mindset, and as you see it through your history and through your past, and how would you define a bad mindset or an unhealthy mindset?
I'd start off by looking at your go-to. When things happen, do you blame yourself? Are you negative? Are you projecting? Are you making excuses? Like always going down, down, down instead of up and out, hopeful, versus being constantly frustrated and being more toxic. Like toxic is such it's an inflammatory word, and it really does turn up your system, and it's like a forest fire, and it's just like a burnt hull. And when I see people who are emotionally have a deficit, you can see it. You can almost feel it coming into a room. Like emotions have a vibration, and so you can actually like have you ever gone into a room, people are arguing, and right before you come in, they stop, and you come into the room, you're like, hey, what's going on here?
Are they arguing about me? What were you saying about me right now?
You can cut it because there are vibrations, and there are also up vibrations where people are laughing and feeling good, and you want to be part of that. So that's kind of how, in my estimation, how I can tell if someone's on point. And I want to piggyback on one thing you said, Todd, how you focus on entrepreneurial, more stress-free life. And the funny thing about it is it's impossible to truly compartmentalize. And here at CRES, we talk about the entrepreneur, but the whole person, not, okay, I'm just going to put that hat on and then I'm going to take that off and put my dad hat on, because it's still the same person.
Yeah.
And it diffuses out as the same person. If you're stressed at work, it's near impossible to leave that out, when you get home.
Oh, yeah.
So how we can help to stir the pot, to be an integrity, the same person everywhere we are, that's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what is a bad mindset? And they don't exist right now. It's just us up here talking. We're talking to each other.
I'm supposed to look at you?
No. You can look at them, but we're talking to each other.
Okay.
That's the whole this whole thing. It's very like a living room.
I would say negative thinking. I mean, I'm from a business owner perspective, I'm about productivity, and negative thinking is a productivity killer, right? And so people whose glass is always half empty, I just think it's good to have a positive focus. I think we think better when we're positive. I think a bad mindset is when we're always dwelling on a mistake, or have regrets, and we're looking back, and really our past is our greatest teacher to learn from our past. So that was one of my biggest lessons. I mean, for years and years, I would just dwell on something, or something happened, and kind of lived in that, if that hadn't happened, wouldn't be dealing with this. And so now I just flip the switch and can be thankful that, all right, I'm glad I learned that when I did. I'll make sure I don't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
So I see things as a learning, but a bad mindset would be negative thinking, always dwelling. By definition, if you think about when we're dwelling on something, think about what's the definition of a dwelling. I mean, that's like a place or a house or somewhere you stay or you live. In other words, it's not moving.
Yeah.
And we start dwelling, and we want a bigger and better future, it's not going to happen. So I think bad mindset or negativity that's going to kill our goals.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you brought. I'm in a YP group that you lead with CBMC, Christian Business Connection. That's where I first met you about 3.5 years ago, and then the last was it 2? I think Kyle's here. We have a couple of our YP guys in my group are here. It's a great organization. But that's how I met you, and I would definitely encourage anyone here online or here to check out CBMC. It's life changing. It's changed my life. And it's all over the country. I guess all over the world, really.
Yep.
But you kind of did a teaching on that dwelling, and I remembered that within our YP group, and it's funny you mentioned it, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about this. This is a good thing to talk about. And I was just reading a book about mindset, and of course with how my brain works, I've now forgotten the author and then the title, all that stuff. But it's about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And I got it from my kids' school. And it's a fascinating read. And it's through the lens of like science and studies. And it's basically what you just described starts at early childhood development. And it impacts our lives pretty much to the moment that we die. And this fixed mindset is built on you have a natural ability and you're a genius and you're the best at what you do and all these things, and you're just kind of praising this ability in somebody. And then over time, what they find out is that that person finds that identity in that fixed mindset, like, oh, I'm good at sports. As soon as they hit conflict, as soon as they hit like a wall, what they do is they find out that that person, to hold that image up, and little children, they begin to lie about their test scores. They begin to lie about how good they are, because they've been told their entire lives that you are this, and they've never been trained to deal with daily conflict. Versus the growth mindset in children, I tested my daughter on this because her school teaches the growth mindset, and a lot of teachers in our public schools, they actually teach through fixed mindset. It's how our grading systems work. It's how our gifting programs work, and so much of that, from my understanding, is based off of really when a child's born. If your child's born between March and May, or God forbid in July, they're going to do awful in school unless you hold them back a year, because that development and their brain hasn't. But they'll miss it by a point, and that 1 point, it just stacks against them, because teachers think, oh, well, I can tell by a test score if a kid's smart or not. And it's like, no, you can't. And that's what this is a teacher who kind of did this study. I just can't remember. I'll remember her name towards the end of this. But what is it? There it is. Thank you, Zach. Mindset. Carol Dweck, Mindset. It's a great book. I knew somebody would know it. But the growth mindset is they're taking these same kids, and they would test these studies out. And I'm probably butchering so much. I'm trying to speed through this, because this is like I'm learning about mindset as a father of 4, and how to empower my children and my wife and myself to grow.
Yeah. Well, as an employer, I look for a growth mindset. I mean, I do not, you know this about me, we do not hire know-it-alls, because I cannot get a return on a know-it-all. They're never going to be any better than they were the day they came in, because they believe they know it all. So I look for learners, people who are hungry to get better and grow. And if they grow on my clock, that helps our business grow and become more valuable. So I think it's very important to instill that early on, that, hey, just focus on being a learner and a grower. You never really arrive. You may think you arrived, but you haven't. You've just stopped growing.
That's right. And so we've actually adapted. I love the saying that Vern, we just went to Denver a couple weeks ago. You either win or you learn. Every failure, and that's a growth mindset right there. So the opposite of that is basically being crushed by your failures and letting all those really unattainable images and perceptions that the world puts on you from a young age determine that, and that's a bad mindset, because you're just the highlight reel, right, of Instagram, right? You're seeing the best, right? And there's this big psychological issue going on that we're now having to, as a culture, rise up and say, no, it's okay to fail. In fact, we want you to fail because that means you're trying, and that means you're growing, and that's a healthy mindset. Is how are you perceiving conflict and then pivoting it, right? And counterweighting that freight train that's coming at you at 100 miles an hour. How do you take that 100 miles an hour and send it off? So that's the intro to this. That's kind of what we're talking about, right? Is how to achieve that. Hey, I'm getting hit with a $100,000 issue, right, as a business, or a $5 issue, right, as a kid who just can't afford a cheeseburger, right? He's got to choose. And they're like this weight of a mountain. How do they take that issue and not be crushed by it, right? Because having a wrong mindset, a bad mindset, or unhealthy mindset allows you to succumb to your surroundings rather than overcoming it. And I think that's what the growth mindset or healthy mindset does. What do you guys think? You guys think that's a decent definition? Or
I do. I also think that your brain actually seeks out what you're looking for. So in a loss, if you're looking for the things that, that you're going to drag into full of regret, then you're going to sit there and just meditate on that, and it's just going to, it's like an anchor. It's going to hold you to that level, versus seeking out, wow, what did I do? What could I have done differently? What will I do next time? That's more, you're opening up more. And so you're going to get a wider focus, but then you can narrow the focus to a successful lane, because you know these lanes don't work because I've already done that.
Yeah.
So now you can get in the lane that works based on the knowledge that you picked up. But it's all about having that, like you say, win or learn. Having that focus, it shifts everything. It gives you more power. It's like, I see this brokenness. What can I pick out of that? I can take this, I can take this, I can take these 3 things out of 100 and apply them to my next station. And that's the deal. That's the elevation that we have to do for ourselves.
How does somebody get there? How does somebody get to, like, I'm seeing this conflict, this mountain that's right here on me. How does somebody learn who's never learned this before? How do we teach them on the basic level to perceive this information and then flip it on its head to use it for your gain, even if it's pain, right? Rather than letting it crush you and you're trying to, like, avoid the appearance of failure. Like, what do you guys think? What do you think, Todd?
It's always easier to talk about than it is to live through it. I mean, my experience has taught me that sometimes my worst pain, after I got through it, turned out to be my greatest lesson and really a life boost, right? I mean, like the worst year we had in business really was our best year because of what ended up resulting from it. So I think the experience helps me to know that, hey, this too shall pass. There's things here to learn I don't want to miss. And so, but I'm a learner. I'm Strength Finders, top 5 is learner. So I do look for the learning opportunity in things. I do agree with you completely on, people are seeing what they're looking for, no doubt. And that's, it's like, how could you have so many different totally opposite views that exist now in the same situation?
Right.
Yeah.
People are trying to validate what they're looking for rather than just say, what's the truth and what nuggets can I take with me to go to bigger and better?
It's like their
So
filter. Right?
I'm just looking to,
Spiritual
hey,
filter.
and of course, I don't know if this is like a faith-based thing, but prayer, I'm praying, asking God to give me wisdom and clarity and how to interpret what's happening in my life, right? And takes pressure off me a little bit if I'm relying on Him.
Yeah. Well, in your opinion, where does a healthy mindset birth? Where does it begin? A healthy mindset.
I would almost say choice, but I don't know the official answer.
There's no official. We're
You're
talking.
the expert, but I mean,
You're the expert.
I think it's
I believe people can choose how they want. Are they willing to think about something?
So a healthy mindset starts with a choice.
A willingness to just and not fear success and not fear bigger and better. And I think people migrate to comfort, and sometimes comfort for people is whining and complaining and having a negative mindset, right? Maybe to make themselves look good. I don't know, but I think it's a choice. I think people
I
can
agree.
choose.
I agree. I think it's choice and I think it's intention. So when you say, for example, if you're looking at this mountain of an issue, how can you tackle that? And it's not with just that one thing, it's the macro view. Like, who am I going to be? Am I going to be a person?
Perspective.
Right, but you
Yeah.
have to have a lifestyle of being open, being a learner, being a tackler, being a champion. Give me a champion mindset. How would a champion deal with this situation? Like in everything that you do. How would I be a champion mom? What would a champion mom do in this situation? What would a champion partner do in this situation? And that just starts oozing out of you.
Yeah.
But it starts with gratitude, the gratitude to know that I have a choice, the gratitude to know that I don't have to have this sitting on me and just burdening me, the gratitude to know that I can get up away from this thing, this pressure, and step over here. One of my favorite business philosophers, Jim Rohn, says, hey, if you don't like a situation, move. You're not a tree. Like, you don't have to just have that and let that be your identity. Shift it because but it has to be intentional. Someone is not going to come along to you and say, here, let me take this burden off of you. That's not how life works. You have to determine in your mind, this is not for me. And if I don't change, it's not going to change. And it's not going to get better. It's likely going to get worse. It's likely going to erode. It's going to take some of me with it. So I need to step away from it and change my
And I think that takes
background.
courage, right?
Absolutely.
And the opposite of courage is a word you said that it was fear. So I think where the negative mindset is birthed is fear. Like, for example, like I'm a songwriter. I've written 300-400 songs that professionally for a long time. And I had a season in my life where I couldn't write a song. I went from being able to write 3 or 4 songs in a day to not writing a song for almost a year. And what had happened was I started hearing these negative voices from the outside, these other guys who were my peers that had their opinions. In reality, as I look back, they were just insecure. They didn't know what, they were trying to be cool. They didn't know what the trend was. And I was writing songs that were popular 2 years later, So it was like, but what happened was I began to listen to these negative voices. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it shut me up.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting with a way more seasoned writer who'd written 20, 25 number one hits, just an unbelievable writer. And he said, you know what causes writer blocks? I have no clue. Please tell me. It's like fear of writing something bad. You're just not trying. And if you ever sit with a good creator, like a world-renowned songwriter, they will tell you that one day they'll write a song, and they'll have 30, 40, 50 days of just non-stop, and all their songs are complete trash for 50 days. 6 months, just utter garbage. And sometimes a song won't actually hit or be completed. It starts with an idea that was 5 years earlier. And then 5 years later, that song hits and becomes this big number one, Grammy. It's the national 401k paying you, 7 figures or whatever, mail money, right? And that's so the idea is, like you said, fear, and I just all that sunk in, and it was like to wrap in the question was like, where's the foundation? How does someone start having a healthy mindset? And I think it's somewhere within fear and maybe identifying your fears.
Yeah, people can choose to either avoid their fear or step out in courage, face their fear. So fear's a big deal. Obviously, that plays in society. We hear it all around us now, and people make decisions based on fear. I mean, it's even proven statistically. People, if they choose, am I making a decision to gain or to avoid pain? Avoid pain is the top motivator.
Yeah.
So people don't want to
Discomfort.
fail. They don't want to have pain. They make decisions around that. Sometimes fear can drive it. I was thinking about something you said, Kim. Does our environment around us impact us? So that's been proven too, absolutely. But once we become adults, we get to choose our environment. That's the thing. People can use that as an excuse for a long time, but there comes a point in time where, as an adult, we can choose to change the environment. We can choose to surround ourselves with different people. We can choose what we listen to.
Yeah.
We can choose where we live, right? I mean, so as kids, some kids don't have a choice.
Yes.
But as adults, I mean, there comes a time where somebody says, you know what, I can no longer use my environment as an excuse, but that still exists, and a lot of times it's just fear of change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think fear is very interesting because fear can also be like fear of public speaking or fear of, going in and ask for a raise or whatnot. I want to say that most people are fearful.
Yeah.
And the issue is you become isolated thinking that you're the only one. Everyone else around me is brave and I'm the only scared one. No, we're all scared and we're doing it anyway. So that's the encouraging thing because, from a faith-based perspective, I believe that the enemy wants to paralyze you in fear so that you cannot reach for the things that God has for you. If he can stump you, stunt your growth, then you'll never want to expand, and the worst thing is you'll start getting comfortable in that small space, and you'll start to atrophy. Even your soul will atrophy. It will not reach out. It will not be the fullness of who you're designed to be. And that's quite sad. It's quite sad. And being around other people, if you don't have the growth, maybe that's one of the first things. If you don't have a growth mindset, get around people who have a growth mindset.
So you're
'Cause they'll
surrounding
pull it,
your people,
they'll pull it out of you.
relationships.
They'll say, "Oh no, that's not acceptable. Oh, is that all you have? Come on, let's do one more. You can do. Think
Yeah.
about it this way. What else can you do?" That's the type of people that you want to be around, who just kind of squeeze all this out of you like a toothpaste tube, right? I find that very, very helpful.
So we would say that having a growth mindset, you don't just arrive and keep it.
Oh no.
It takes significant discipline, right? Because I don't know about you, but every day I feel like I have a mountain that falls on me, and there is no absence of fear. There is, especially as you're growing and scaling and you're getting older, and you're like, man, you're watching the clock move by, your kids are getting bigger, and you're like, okay, how am I going to do this? And especially in turmoil times like this, everyone's talking about recessions and economic collapse and just chaos hitting our world with wars and everything. And fear is present, but it's understanding how to have courage in the midst of it. And I think those are some of the nuts and bolts that we need to talk about a little bit, is like, all right, fear is simply a part of living, but how do you not allow fear, which is the birthing place of the fixed and negative mindset, where courage, and I would say faith, in the ability that you will diligently work through this, through disciplines and through like disciplined actions and thoughts, and just being a disciplined individual. A lot of times, you have to birth that in you as an adult, because it wasn't birthed as a child. If you come from a certain socioeconomic background, you definitely aren't birthed with disciplines. And so how do we, at this point in time, once we've started becoming disciplined and practicing this growth mindset, say, I'm not going to let this circumstance conquer me, and let that fear root in and seed in, and I respond with courage. And then there's the outcome. It's surrounding yourself with the right influential people, right? You look at your 5 closest friends. That's where your life's going in the next 5 years, right? Those type of things. And so here, what we put here in our guidelines is what is it, once you've started becoming disciplined at practicing a healthy mindset, how do you practically go with it for the long term? How do you make it from a desire to just like breathing?
I want to comment on one of the things you mentioned just briefly.
Think of what you want.
Socioeconomic background. I don't think that matters.
No?
I think there are people who are wealthy.
I agree.
And there are people who are poor who have great discipline. So I think it's something else. I don't think it's income, determine it,
It's culture. It's experience. It's what you learn as a child.
Right, which could be, again, there are poor kids who are like, I'm going to be the president. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And there are rich kids who are like, I'm going to be privileged and I'm not going to do anything. So I think there's something beyond that. I think there's another factor in there.
What do you think that factor is?
I think it's what they see, because a lot of times you model.
Comes back to relationships.
What the people around you do.
Yeah.
If you see, we may have this or that, or we may be absent, we may be lacking it, but we're going to pull together and we're going to figure it out. That's a champion mindset, because you never, there's a solution. You know there's always a solution. I just got to find it. So you're on point.
Yeah, I can see that.
Always seeking it out.
What I've found is it's about 5 generations to create something with diligent work. And my grandparents were sharecroppers in the Great Depression in Alabama and Georgia. And I remember hearing stories of they were still in horse and buggy in the early 40s, right? That's crazy. The automobile been out for, 20 years already at that point in time, 30 years? And so you think of that, and what had caused them to live in this place of being a sharecropper, planting and growing all the back on someone else's land and just getting a fraction of the shares. And yet, 3 generations later, you have engineers, rocket scientists, real estate developers, artists, these teachers, and it was, I think, from the foundation, that's just my own, heritage, is the foundation of that hard work and moving that forward, and like those stepping stones, right, of taking courage and not letting your circumstances define you. I mean, that runs through my veins, right? And then you just get better at it, and I think you surround yourself with better people, and you get better information. But I think there's something onto that. I mean, it's definitely, people can pull themselves out through relationships and knowledge, and they can break those or bridge those generational movements. What do you think?
I think big things just be solution focused rather than problem focused. I mean, what's getting our attention? And I like one, it's more fun to be solution focused.
Yes.
Right? It's not fun to be fear focused.
Yeah.
And I mean, I again just believe that God's got it, so I don't really have to be fearful. So when I am, I'm usually focused on myself rather than Him. I'm focused on what's happening around me or what might happen. One of the guys in one of our groups one time said worry is like a down payment on a problem that'll never really happen. And so, and I found that to be true in my life. I worry about stuff and that pretty much almost never happens.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of disciplines. I think one of them is crystal clear. Well, I'll share a little bit about that later if you want a specific example. But I think discipline, being intentional, making the choice. You know what? I'm going to be solution focused. I'm not going to dwell on the problem. I'm going to learn from the problem. I'll analyze it, come up with a solution, but then focus on the solution.
Well, I think we're going to segue into like that. I think you're right on the money, actually, because the next thing is, can you give a real life example of a time you struggled with a negative mindset or got busy, and then how you overcame that negative mindset? I'm going to direct that first one towards you.
Well, I'll just.
You're on that.
I mean, my real life example would be. I don't know if any of you guys ever like wake up in the middle of the night, like at 4 o'clock in the morning. You start thinking about something, and then you can't go back to sleep.
This morning, yeah.
And so that was me. I would start thinking about something. I would start to worry about something, or something that happened, or wish I would have handled something differently. And the next thing you know, I don't go back to sleep. And then I get up tired, and I'm not really ready to give my best for the day that's ahead. And so one time, 4 o'clock in the morning, I get up and I'm writing this book on stress less business owner. And I'm thinking, okay, every time I'd have a stressful situation, I just kind of ask God, okay, God, what's the solution for this? Waking up in the middle of the night, I'm not going to solve anything in the middle of the night. I'm more likely to solve something by getting sleep and being rested and tackling something when I'm at my best. So I just started praying and reading, and I must have been in Proverbs 3. So Proverbs 3:21 says, get wisdom, understanding, sound judgment, and discretion. And it'd be like an ornament around your neck. So it's like people are attracted to a nice necklace or Roman soldiers, ornament. So it's like, man, when we have wisdom, understanding, sound judgment, and discretion, then people are going to be attracted to us. But then it says, and you'll be able to walk in safety. Your foot will not stumble. That's all good. Mm-hmm. And you can lay down without fear, and your sleep will be sweet. And I go, man, I just found a biblical formula for a good night's sleep.
Yes.
So what I started doing is every time I wake up, 4 o'clock in the morning, this is a real life scenario, because this was unhealthy for me. Mm-hmm. I just started praying that God would give me wisdom, understanding, sound judgment, and discretion. And the discretion to know how my decisions impact others, sound judgment to be able to understand truth and moral principles and how to make a decision based on that. Understanding just to trust that God's working. Wisdom to apply all three of those with experience to make a best possible decision. But I would just start praying for that and say, God, I can't do anything about this right now, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'd be out. And I haven't woke up. Well, I woke up, but I've not stayed awake in the middle of the night since. And that's been 7 years.
Wow.
So, but before then, it was every night. And I don't even have to pray that too much anymore. It's almost like I can flip the switch with that mindset. But until I got there, God, I pray you give me wisdom, understanding, sound judgment, and discretion. Nothing I can do about this. I just trust you with it. And then I'd go back to sleep. There's something about trusting God with stuff in the middle of the night. He can handle it. And that way I can sleep. Takes the pressure off.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So a portion of my coaching deals specifically with sleep and the importance of it and the fact that your brain doesn't sleep. So it's almost like when you're specifically praying for wisdom and understanding and sound judgment, it's like being at the deli counter and put that order in, and you go to sleep, and the brain is moving around to make sure that all the tracks are aligned to support your order, to fill your order.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, because the flip side of that is that people often go to sleep worrying about bills, worrying, not looking for solutions, worrying and being fearful, and you're taking that into your spirit. So when you wake up in your brain and your mind, and so it's building up all the worry altars and fear altars, and when you wake up, it's like, whew, when you say that mountain is there in the morning, it's like, good morning,
Yeah,
versus.
don't watch the news before you go to bed.
Yes, absolutely. Get all of that. We put positivity in your spirit so that your brain, and guess what? Even if you have like a particular problem you're trying to figure out at work, if you go to sleep and like your last thoughts are, I'm looking for a solution for that problem. I can't wait to wake up with a solution. Like your brain is like, I got to fill that order. They're looking for a solution in a relationship or a work problem or, a parental problem, whatever. But your brain is always looking to fulfill your order. It's a powerful, organ that we don't even use that much except for, hanging a hat on or whatnot. I've found one of my, as I reflected on times of overwhelm, that's when stress really kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a homeschooling family. We homeschooled 3 kids, and my son for 12 years, and he was the longest, but a long span, 12 solid years of homeschooling. And in the midst of that, I'd be thinking, this is a lot, like a lot, curriculum everywhere, and just wondering, is this doable? Will I handle it? Will I process through? Will I, miss something? One time a homeschool mom said, oh my gosh, I was like, my child was in 5th grade and they were somewhere and everyone said, okay, do cursive writing. And she's thought, oh my gosh, I forgot to teach my child how to do cursive writing,
Yeah.
So just wanting to check all the blocks and making sure that you don't miss them. And what pulled me out of that is to stop projecting myself into the future and to be in that moment. Because you can't control the future. And for the past, it's regrets or what I woulda, coulda, shoulda done. What can you do right now? That's all. What's right in front of you. Put your mind on that. Put your energy on that. Pull yourself into that specific space and let tomorrow take care of itself. Because tomorrow is going to be your next moment in the present, So just to pull those resources in, regardless, when I was coming here in bad traffic, coming from the stadium, I'm driving, and it's so funny because I was thinking about this. It's like traffic everywhere.
Oh, yeah, there's a game tonight, too. Yeah,
Yes,
that's what's going on.
as soon as I turn, I'm like, oh, gee. And I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, that's
Nothing
a pretty...
will stress you out or get
I
you
was
fixed
like-
in your mindset in a football game or a hockey game or something.
I was like,
You're
oh,
not going to it.
that's a pretty yellow shade of car. Nice.
Oh,
and I'm
you
driving
pivoted.
past,
You
and I'm
started
driving
being
past
grateful.
a hospital, and I'm, a cancer center. I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful that I don't have cancer. Like I'm just going through and picking out the jewel, because there are gems in everything.
Attitude of gratitude
Yeah,
right there.
because otherwise I was like, I'm shifting. I had to shift. I had to intentionally make a shift.
Choosing intentionally. And I so you're so humble. Both of you guys are some of the most humble people I've ever met. Your accomplishments are unbelievable. If anybody has right to brag in the standards of the world, you two and your families have the right to brag. And my belief is that says, let the mouths of others praise you. And so there's a story that you told me that I was like on the edge of my seat the entire time. And I think it's the perfect thing of how do you see gratitude and gratefulness. And Corvelli, what's up, man? Hey, did you bring enough food for me? I see you eating. I'm just kidding. That's Kim's husband. He's a dear friend. Corvelli is a manly man. He's the army. He's like all these different things. A great leader of leaders. And I always admired Corvelli. And then I really got to know Kim. I was like, Corvelli, the cheat code for you is a cheat code for me. We just got great wives that are unbelievable. And they support us and do. I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere without my wife. I get home, I feel like I'm tired. And my wife has just picked up after 4 kids. And she's like, what are you doing? Just trying to sit down, man. I was like, all right, I'll get right up. But there was a story. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but I am going to ask you to share this story. So you're homeschooled. And you and your husband, you and Corvelli met in the military, right? And then you guys traveled in the military. You got to give us a little background about who you and Corvelli are, what you guys have done. Because you didn't just homeschool your kids. You homeschooled your kids in an environment that most families fall apart, in my opinion, from the outside looking in. Like being in politics, traveling, raising up the ladder of success and government. So just share that story. Specifically the one about your stuff getting blown up.
Oh man! Like I was wondering where this was going.
And I'll drop it right
Yes,
there. Your stuff
yes.
getting blown up.
So Corelli and I met in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, 2 second lieutenants coming out of college in the military intelligence officers course. And he's from Maryland, I'm from Maryland. We went 3,000 miles away to meet each other, so that's kind of interesting. And then we went and served in Germany. We went through jump school, Fort Benning, Georgia, and then went to Germany, and then we went to Panama. Back to Arizona, then to Panama. And while we were in Panama, this was at the beginning of Operation Just Cause, and the military is so fantastic because they'll come in your house and pack up all your things and put them on a truck and move out. You have to do nothing. So they did that for us several times. They did it going to Panama. All of our items were in storage, and 30 days within arriving after 30 days, we went to war in Panama. And it was a skirmish, really, like a couple of weeks and then many weeks of, cleaning everything up. So when it was over, we went to storage to say, hey, you can deliver our items when, we're ready to receive them, and I have all the places picked out where everything's gonna go. And I called and they said, Lieutenant McDaniel, hold on, please. And I'm holding. I'm like, what's taking so long? They got back and they said, all of your things have been destroyed. Your items were in a warehouse with all the other military members inbound, and there was a sniper on the roof, and so we had to send a helicopter to meet the sniper, and so we made sure he couldn't snipe anymore, and all of your things exploded, and we're sorry. We'll work through this, but let's start itemizing the loss. And I'm like, excuse me? What just happened? So that was one of the wake-up calls of, okay, what do we do now? And we have that's truly a lesson when you say, am I my things? My things were destroyed, but was I destroyed? What part of that, what's the lesson that we can take from this? And one of our biggest lessons was just to, trim down, less is more. What do we really need to be happy? We had a bunch of things from Europe, which was very cool, but even that, sometimes I look, Jeremy, and I think, it's all going to burn away.
Yeah.
Like,
but a lot
really.
of those were irreplaceable, and the government did what?
They wrote a check. It's like, you had, 500 pictures of Europe. Okay, Kodak moments. Okay, that's $200. It's like, gee, thanks. I can buy more film, but the pictures are gone. But the memory, again, thank God I have memories, that I can reflect on things.
And that's the growth mindset right there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a healthy mindset right there, right?
What
You
can I
literally
do?
had everything blown up by a missile that you owned while you were serving our country.
Yes.
And sacrificed that, and you're all, and at the same time you learned from it. You grew from it, and then you guys began to grow, and you supported Corvelli. And were you working too while you were homeschooling?
I was still coach. That's when I started coaching.
Okay, so you started coaching.
Yeah, from home, and I did different things, but that was like the main thing. We started a homeschool group because, again, surrounding ourselves with like-minded parents. So our group was about 25 families, and we came together and networked and, did amazing things. And that's why I realized that the potential, so the question became to me, when do we lose the curiosity factor? Because the kids we were working with, they're like, oh, we can do this, we can go to DC, and they were just agog at every opportunity. And it made me think, when do we lose that? Because I'm looking at a bunch of adults who are like knuckle dragging and, minimizing and mediocrity, and it's like, I need to help close that gap. Like, don't give up on this. This is your natural. When do we make it unnatural,
Yeah.
And that's what I said, that's what drew me into coaching.
Yeah, and just a little bit more, like, share what you want. I won't, share your business or nothing. But you guys did. You guys have done some amazing stuff. With titles, with positions, with what the world says. I've arrived, right? Like, you have status. You have, you have weight. That's what it's like you. But how I define you and Corvelli is you guys are meek. You have great authority, great power, great stature. and you know when to use it. Right, that's the definition of meekness, and I think that is, and that's where I want to honor you guys in that, and just because it's what you guys have gone through and what you guys have accomplished in life is quite amazing, and I would encourage everyone to look at their story. Do you guys have your story recorded or anything like that?
No,
we got to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. But it's an amazing story. So. Just on a high level, like talk a little bit about, like, just brag on your family, your success, your husband's success. It might be easier,
Well, Cavelli?
Well, we don't like bragging on ourselves, but just brag. I think that I'm gonna throw you out there. You guys, God has just blessed you guys, and it's because I want people to see what a healthy mindset and growth mindset can do. And I'll probably do the same thing to Todd too, but.
Yeah. Well, I think that we operate solely on the favor of God. That's just the bottom line. I mean, God puts things before us, and we still have to make a choice of whether or not you want to walk into it. Right. I know Cavelli's had big titles at the Treasury Department given to him, and he's like, I'm not seeking this out. Yeah. But God consistently put things before us that we had to say, yes, we want it. And if you're going to put it before us, God, we're going to presume that you're going to help us get through it. You're going to help us get through it and still keep you at the center of it all. Because that's the whole point. Because God wants us to be used so that people can always see that he's the one who's pushing us through. So even through, I remember I bought a book that I've written. And this book is related to, in a unique way, into mental health. It's called Come Out With Your Hands Up, and the subtitle is The Joy of Surrendering on to God.
Where can we get that book?
His terms, on my website.
On your website, all right. We'll get there on your guys' book, so we're going to make sure.
Because, and I remember, again, when you say modeling, when the books came to my house, and we were all homeschooling, we had a funky house where you could do a circuit through all the rooms on the first floor. And when the boxes of books came,
the kids rode their bikes through.
The kids ran through the house with, and they were like, "You're an author, you're an author," and they're running through the house, and
that's
awesome.
That
whole point of celebrating with those who love you and support you. Because guess what? If they were crazy kids, I wouldn't have had a chance to sit down and write in peace and hear God speaking to me and through me. So the teamwork, and they're part of my team. And so the question becomes, who is part of your team that helps you
right back into that,
to move to higher levels? Because guess what? The people on your team, they are pearls. Because there are a bunch of people who would volunteer to hold you down, to hold you back, You want to get the people who are like your cheerleaders, and guess what? You also have an obligation to give back to them. You speak life into their life and receive the life that they speak into your life.
So your community is a direct impact on your ability to have a healthy mindset or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So the foundation is overcoming fear. And the one of the secrets to it, I would say one.
Well, moving through fear, not overcoming.
Moving through fear. You don't overcome it. It's always there.
Yes.
You're moving through fear. Yes. And then one of the key secrets to having and maintaining, because that was kind of the question we were kind of going off of, is maintaining the longevity of a healthy mindset, right? Where you have these ups and lows, right? But how do you're not, your life isn't going this way, but your mindset can go this way, right? Just steady and they're not as big, right? High and low. So your healthy mindset is almost directly influenced and supported longevity-wise by the company you keep and the community that you surround yourself with.
And the habits you build.
Like
with Todd, he's like, when you become a solutions finder, you don't have to tell yourself, be a solutions finder. It's like, that's who I am.
Yeah.
And I see this issue, and I'm going to start breaking it apart, and I'm going to put it back together, because that's who you are. So becoming that person, that's where the discipline, in the beginning, you're going to push against it, but once you get there, you just hold what you got, and you exercise your mind and look for different ways to solve things instead of looking for ways to complain, and catch yourself. If you hear yourself, that's one of the big challenges too. We kind of go through things all the time on automatic pilot, and we don't even process the process. So when you catch yourself complaining, it's like, wait a minute, how did that get in here? Who let that guy in? So always be alert to what you're doing that's off key.
Absolutely. So Todd, when did your warehouse get blown up? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
flood. We had a flood.
Well, let's talk about an experience in your
my.
life that
Man.
tested your ability, where you could have said, you know what, man, life is just awful. I'm going to quit. This is horrible. I can't believe this is happening to me. What's your explosion experience, your blow up experience of all your belongings? That literally happened, but we all have that in our life.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. I think the key is to not. First of all, I agree completely. My answer is the same as Kim's. I give God the credit.
That's not fair.
Pastor Tony Evans says the quickest way to reverse or halt greatness is to not give God the credit. So I can't take credit for anything. It's almost like in spite of me, God has blessed. And so it also takes the pressure off. And my job is just to be available. So different things have happened, but we can't let our circumstances define us. We could be defined by how we respond to the circumstances. So that's my goal. So it's not always to change the circumstances, but to make sure that I'm responding well in the way God would want me to. So, a lot of the things that happen, I kind of tried to learn and then just move on. And I don't really talk about that stuff too often unless there's a true learning experience that can be shared.
Like somebody's going through hell right now and they feel like where the world's falling apart. People, whatever that is. We've had that. We've had, horrible death and chaos strike our life, and different things like that. The C word, right? Cancer that struck our family and multiple times. I mean, experiences like that happen. If you could give someone who's going 3 positions of advice, who's going through that chaos, that explosion of everything's just gotten blown up, what would you say to them right now? And they're in the middle of it. It's hot. It's their emotions are heavy.
Yeah, I mean, the world is chaos. I think things are crazy, but our own personal life doesn't have to be defined by what's going on in the world. So I think, our objective would be to rise above it and to respond well. We respond well to chaos. It's a beautiful thing, right? So I just think, one, I just lean so much on prayer, so I can't answer a question without saying what's God telling you to do about it. And if you first of all, we have to quit trying to control it. Control's an illusion. Anytime you think you have control, you got to be careful because control is an illusion, right? So we don't ultimately have control. There are things we, somewhat can feel like we are controlling in the moment, but we're going to start to stress a lot if we really feel like we're in control of life.
Yeah.
So, I submit to God's control there. It takes pressure off of me. Circumstances are crazy, but I'm looking for the good. There's still so many good people out there. There's a lot of good things happening. Dan, you mentioned gratitude. Dan Sullivan says gratitude is the fuel for forward progress. So if we want to move forward, the basis of that is gratitude. So I would just say, hey, if you're in the worst possible time of your life, just think about what do you have to be thankful for, right? I mean, there's so much to be thankful for. And once we start focusing on gratitude, also, like if you want a shortcut to eliminating stress in your life, just start worshiping God. It's like we cannot worship Almighty God and focus on Him and have stress at the same time. Stress only occurs when we're looking at ourselves and what's happening to us. But if we just look at God, so that's what my shortcut is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I still get stressed. See, I'm not stress-free. I'm just stressed less.
Yes.
But I can beat it quicker now, right?
Yeah.
Because I can shift and I could worship, get my eyes off me. Eyes on myself. John Corson said that when we look inside, we become depressed. When we look outside, we become distressed. But when we look upward, we're strengthened. And boy, that's more real now, today.
Yeah.
I mean, you look outside what's happening around us, that's somewhat distressful. But we have a role to play. Now is when we step up, I believe, more than ever. So somewhat exciting time that I feel like, hey, God wants to use us. What's the assignment? And in your worst time, people are watching you to see how you're responding and who you get your strength from. And so this is it's a great time in our worst times to set an example for others.
Yeah, so the one, we'll kind of, the three things of advice you give somebody who's going through hell on earth right now, right? It belongs all just got it blown up, would be you don't have any control. Embrace that you don't have any control. Lose the lie that you somehow can control the circumstance. Focus on the good. Have a heart of gratitude and be grateful. And the third one was look outward rather than inward. Is that so?
No, look upward.
Look upward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking. You're no longer self-consuming on your and dwelling like we had mentioned, right? So don't dwell upon it, but look upward, look outward, serve, focus not on yourself but on others, and based off your belief system, focus on your God, Creator, all the above there. Which I 100% agree with. I think that is a very simple roadmap to anyone who's going through chaos today. One is admit you have no control over it. So the more you try to control it, the more you're broke, the more it hurts. Be grateful for because there's always something, like you said, you're stuck in traffic. That's a really nice color, yellow. Man, I'm glad I don't have cancer right now. Right?
Ever.
I'm glad I don't ever have cancer. I like how you said that. I'm never going to, I'm glad I don't ever have cancer, right? And so and then the other thing is, you also begin to look and I almost have empathy on somebody's in there who is battling their life or just lost their life, right? And I don't know, maybe you said a prayer, maybe you went to in your faith, right? And looked upward in that position. And I know that's what I do. I know anytime I pause, I pray, I press, I prepare, and then I pursue the conflict. I pursue the chaos. And I call that the 5 Ps in my life. But it all comes with pausing and praying and pressing in. And then out of those first 3, then it's a preparation and then a pursuit. Looking through the good. All right, I'm going to pursue this chaos. Right? And that's for me, those are my mechanisms. Right?
That's good stuff.
Yeah. This is awesome. Guys, we have 3 minutes and we're going to open up open discussion. An hour went by so fast, didn't it?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I just want to share some stats, because I think it's just good to be on point with what we're dealing with. So 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 20 adults experience serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 U.S. youth, 6 to 17 years old, experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14, and 75% by 24. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. So when we think about the challenges that people have, we look at what tools they have, because a challenge is only a challenge because you don't have the resources to counter it and to, cut it down so that you can deal with it. I talked to my daughter today, 25 years old, and I said, hey, give me some pointers, give me a gem for mental health awareness in your generation. Yeah. She says, I would say that your brain is not fully developed. Everything has a season, and the more you go through life, the greater clarity you gain. So if you're in a bad season right now, it won't last forever, even if it feels that way. And if you're in a good season, that won't last forever either. A grateful mindset is key.
How do you have a 45-year-old daughter?
25.
I'm just kidding. I know what she said. I was like, that is like wisdom beyond her age. Like,
yes.
What you should be very proud of her.
I told her, I said, you should be on the platform with me. This is
Yeah.
great.
Well,
This
she
is good
is.
stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
Man, that was.
And that's, that whole journey of we have to get it together because there are kids behind us. Like the whole deal, that's what I tell people coaching all the time. You need to be your best, not for you. It's not a selfish thing, but so that you can give to other people. You want to give them your best. When someone comes to your house, you don't want to give them the end of the bread and, just raggedy things. You want to give them your best to make them feel welcome.
You want to eat the end of the bread. You give them the middle of the bread.
Yes,
right?
you want to. Yes, so we need to get up our game, and all of that is iron sharpening iron, iron sharpening iron. And
What does that mean? I mean,
it means like we get the rough edges that we receive critiquing, not criticism, but we receive critiquing from one another. We have accountability to one another. We look to one another for a consultation.
Yeah.
Like we build relationships. That's what that means.
Because you know knives, right? You love knives, right? So I love that ancient proverb, right? As iron sharpens iron, so a person sharpens another.
Yeah.
Right?
Few sparks fly sometimes, but
And you make
it
knives.
ends
You
up with
have
a
a
good-
knife
good
company. It's one of
product.
one of your passions. I mean, that's what we connect over is collecting knives. So how do you sharpen a knife? What does that mean to have iron sharpening iron? Like why is that? Why can't it be iron with a twig? Why can't a twig sharpen iron? So let's kind of, because I love that, so I wanted to dive deeper, because it goes back into who you're surrounding yourself with, impacts your mindset. So why can't a twig sharpen an iron, and how does that define itself within what we're talking?
Well, I am sharpened by surrounding myself with people who are positive focused. Sometimes they tell me things I may not want to hear. That's where the iron creates some sparks, right? So and so that makes that will make me stronger if I listen. So I think that's the key. Just like the group that you're in, you're surrounded by other young entrepreneurs, and you guys share challenges, and you are willing to speak up into each other's lives, and sometimes you may not want to hear some of the things that get said, but it make you better, make you sharper. So I believe that's the meaning behind the passage, and we should be willing to embrace that and not run from that. So one of my things is when I have an idea that I kind of don't want to share with the really smart people in my life that will tell me the truth, I really know I probably shouldn't be doing it, but sometimes I still, it's like I might go ahead and just do this anyway. And I think the best thing to do is surround yourself with people who will speak truth into you, and hopefully they'll help you save some money from making a bad mistake.
I apologize for interrupting.
No.
I just felt that. I thought, man, these guys have such. You guys like these guys? Are they awesome?
That's a loaded question.
It is. I love it. I'm so excited for this. This conversation going for 6 hours. It's great. Are you guys having fun?
I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying listening to what I've learned a lot.
That's this whole thing. We're just chatting in the living room, and then we have some guests that just arrived. They knocked on the door, and now they're sitting here.
All right.
They've been listening this whole time, and we didn't know it. But so we're going to open up the floor, and we'll talk a little bit about your guys' careers towards the very end, and because you guys have helped so many people in what you guys do, and the most important aspect to you when it comes to having a healthy mindset. We'll kind of get into that, but I want to. We can turn on the lights too. I want some of you guys. This is a big part of these CRES Chats. It's just you guys off the cuff asking any question pertaining to a healthy mindset, right? That's what we're talking about. Any question you have to anyone on this platform, and then we'll just kind of popcorn around the questions and walk around. Is that cool? You guys got your questions? Thinking through any questions online, Daniel? You see that? One, okay. Yeah, is the wireless on? Mic check, mic check. Mic drop. There we go.
So this is a question. I wanted to make an addition and ask Kim to speak on it more. One of the foundations you guys talked about for a growth mindset, I wanted to add on that healing is a big foundational thing for growth mindset. I study a lot with trauma-informed care because I have a daughter who grew up in foster care that we adopted and has a very extensive trauma background. And so I've gotten to see her life and parent her through her trauma, and she has such a willingness to have a growth mindset. But what happens is when something gets hard, she goes to her shame response. And so then she moves back out of fear. because of her trauma. And so just with the way the brain works too, is that after a significant amount of trauma and you're not healing from it, what happens is that it impacts your executive functioning. So it's like it makes it even hard to be able to have a growth mindset because of those things. And so I think, I always tell her too that, because I like how you guys said it's a choice, even in those things. And because this is mental health, that's why I wanted to bring up the trauma aspect. But even with that, you still have a choice. And so I always tell her that she's no longer a victim. And while it was horrible that she had to endure trauma and it was not her fault, that it's her responsibility to grow from. And so she has this willingness and always want to grow. But then when it gets really hard, she goes to her shame response of because growth is an uncomfortable process, right? We all know this. So as soon as it gets uncomfortable, that's when she wants to go back to like, you know what, I this is too scary, this is too uncomfortable, I'm ashamed, and kind of let that shame response take over her. So I think it's just any advice you can give to like helping those who have, extensive trauma or mental health issues of how to heal to be able to really get into that growth mindset, because there's so many people that want to, but.
So to clarify the question, it's how do you begin to heal from trauma-induced, fixed, fear-based mindset? How do you begin to heal and bridge, right, into a healthy growth mindset that allows you to overcome through looking at I don't have control over this. There's got to be good, right? And looking outward rather than inward, looking upward rather than inward. So how do you begin? Someone who has suffered trauma-induced, not of their own hands, but of others?
I think part of it would be to layer in who she is, because when we say you're no longer a victim, like I don't like to focus on what you're not, but what you are. So however you're going to define that strengthened person, you identify her as that. This is who you are, and how would that person act in this situation? And you say that, you're a very critical, you're a wise critical thinker, and you say that all the time, not just when she's in a fight or flight moment. Just, because as you layer that superwoman inside of her, then she's going to, that cape is going to unfurl at some point, and she's going to have that fix. That's who I am. That's part of my identity. And it's going to, that victim stuff is just going to fall off. That's part of it. And again, there are other things, but that's a very significant, what you speak. I think words are incredibly powerful, so layering those on to give her the authority and to give her courage and to give her confidence. I think those are very, very important steps in day-to-day living and reordering her brain and helping her to prioritize new power that she has.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Who's next? Let the questions keep rolling.
So kind of the same thing. I know so many people who tend to blame themselves whenever they, meet conflicts. So are there any additional tips or any advice that you all would give for people who continuously blame themselves whenever they meet a hard situation?
Like they take it like, oh, this is my fault.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's Todd and then Kim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
Unless
ahead.
Kim, Todd, you want to be a gentleman?
Well, everybody has a past and everybody has a future, and then we have the present. So, the past only exists as a resource for us, I believe, to learn from, to pursue the bigger and better future. So when we're beating ourselves up over a decision that we've made in the past that maybe was a mistake, we're not doing anything to help us move to the bigger and better future unless we leverage that and learn from it, and actually can view it somewhat with gratitude because it can help us achieve the bigger and better. So that's all mindset, really, is to choose gratitude that, look, things have happened. How can I leverage that? How can I learn from that to have a bigger and better future? Man, listen, we've all made mistakes. Everybody has a past, but our past doesn't have to define us. We get to choose what we take with us to the future. And it's very important to tell our kids that too, so that they're not dwelling.
Yeah, and now what about the people who are blaming themselves for something, but they're not to blame. So they're taking on a victim mindset, right? It's the same question, right? They're taking on, because yes, this is your fault. There's certain circumstances where you go, this is your fault. You got to own it, right? And then what about the people where they're taking it as if it's their fault, trying to own it? In fact, they're actually the victim, and it's not their fault. It's someone else's fault. But now they're being crushed by this victim mindset because I think there's roots to that question that can be answered. When it is your fault, you got to own it. When it's not your fault and you're trying to own it, how do you?
Well, a couple of things. I want to direct your question to my response to your question first. I am a big believer in grace and in giving yourself grace, giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, and giving yourself the knowledge to say, you know what, I made the best choice given the information that I had, and it's over.
And the mindset I was in at the time that I made the choice.
Right.
I mean, at that very time.
At that moment.
You made the best choice you knew to make, or at least that did the best you could.
Right.
Yeah.
And then taking the lesson to the next phase of your life. Just taking the narrow lanes, because we talk about wide is the gate, right? But narrow. We want to get narrow. We want to get tight on our decisions, on our disciplines, and we want to take that to the next season of our life. But don't begrudge it with, I wish it wouldn't have happened. I regret. No, it happened. Yeah. Yep, that's me. Yeah. Let me pick myself up and put myself into the next phase with the lessons. Mm-hmm. And that way I'm taking a stronger me to this phase, a wiser me, that I wouldn't be without having gone through this experience. So be grateful even for the experience, good, bad, and ugly, because that's part of you. That's part of your makeup. That's all you, right? And then you just continue refining, and moving forward without regret, but only lessons,
Yeah. And Michael, were you talking about a victim mindset as well?
Yeah, basically, I just know so many people that, they tend to, blame themselves, or, if they're stuck in situations, they don't necessarily know how to get out of it. So it's kind of directing it towards that, how do I go out and help those individuals, or how do we have conversations for them to get out of that mindset kind of thing?
From someone who's taking blame where they shouldn't take blame. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You guys think about that?
I just would need more information.
Yeah, okay. Yes, that's wisdom right there. Yes,
I just need more information.
Yeah.
I mean, you all kind of basically
There's
said
wisdom. There's wisdom in all of it. It's circumstantial time.
It's a lot of power in a question. Like, if there was a way that you could move forward without that holding you back, would you want to know?
Ask a question.
And let them start to give you permission to help them get to the next phase. It's like, customer, if or an employee, we have an upfront question for employee. If there's ever a time when customer's not happy with the quality of your work, would you want us to let you know? And when you first hire them, they always say, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then later, there's a problem. Remember when? So I think you could use that approach in any situation, but somehow people got to give you permission to say, yes, I'm willing to hear and talk about it, and move on from it. I really think unwillingness is you were mentioning unwillingness back there, but that's such a root problem of everything. People want to be successful, but they don't have the discipline. They're not doing what's required to succeed, and then that's what the B word is all about. B word's busy. But you got to stop using the B word.
I'm really glad we circled back to that to define that, because if we would have stopped just actually defining what B word we're discussing.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, let's clear that up. Todd's book.
But
the
interesting thing about this, because I don't let busy define me, and there's a big story to all that. But the big interesting part of it is I don't really think busyness is the problem. I think ultimately people are unwilling, which you mentioned unwilling, they're just unwilling to do what's required to succeed. Therefore, they look for other things to keep them busy. And then they blame busyness as the problem. They were too busy. And the same way people live their whole life that way. You know, they get to the deathbed and wish they'd kind of done the things God asked them to do. They were always too busy, but were they really unwilling? There's a lot of people that are say, oh, I want to get better and I want to get past it. But at the end of the day, they're unwilling. So I think the willingness is an area to address. You know, the answers are all there and the solutions are all there if there's a willingness to embrace them.
Yeah, and you know, to you talk about like your new book on that. I had the honor, as well as Kyle, we sat in our YP group, and we had the honor of you teaching. That changed my life, that teaching on don't say the B word, right, or stop saying the B word. But I remember when you went to write that book, and you wrote it over Christmas break, and like and it was just, I'm so glad that you wrote it. I'm very proud of you for writing it, because me personally, when you taught that several years ago, I remember you gave an analogy about I'm working all day. I'm going to working all day, and I get home and I tell my wife, man, I've worked all day, but I feel like I've not got nothing done. I've been busy all day, but I got nothing done. And you were like, you might as well just stayed at home and hung out with your wife if you were going to dishonor her that way. And it's like, and at that point in time, the message was, you know, you replace it with productive.
Yeah.
I'm not busy, I'm productive. And that has stuck with me and has really changed my life. That book's unbelievable. I read the book. It's quite awesome. I suggest anybody getting it. But the B word, and we're going to go to Kim's book too. I could ramble about you guys forever. Let's do another question though. Need some water?
Yes.
Yeah. So we get any other question? I know we had one online. What was the one that was online? Oh, Matt's got a question.
Yeah. No, I can ask you a question. What's your guys' take on, I feel like a lot of us lose the idea of imagination and dreaming and just allocating time for that. So that was my question, just the application of just being able to dream. And we say that busyness, but a lot of people just don't sit down and dream a little bit. And I know that's more future tense, but being present with dreaming.
So can you clarify the question? Did you understand the question?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
I mean, I think it's critical. I mean, I love dreaming, and I have a pretty big imagination. You know, so I love being creative, and I do it with paper. So I draw, you know, flow charts and ideas, and this could lead to that, and we use and teach critical path, you know, to go from where you are now to what that dream is. John Maxwell has written a good book, Put Your Dream to the Test, to really try to help you determine if you can even achieve the dream that you have. So I believe it's very important to invest time doing that and just kind of see where it takes you. It's very exciting. It gives you motivation, you know, to get up in the morning to pursue things that you do dream about. So I'm big into that, probably almost to a nerdy level, but I love dreaming.
Mm-hmm. And I think dreaming is the opposite of worrying. You know, it's a counterbalance to worrying. Your future's there. What's your perspective on it? Is it full of dreams and hopes, or worries and fears?
Yeah.
So you make the choice now on how you're going to look at, you know, the days to come.
Mm-hmm. And the nuts, the bolts. What was the nuts, the bolts to your question, Matt? You still have the microphone? Like a practical way to start dreaming when you've lost the ability to dream.
Yeah, I mean, it was allocating the time to obviously dream. I think, you know, just I see in even kids, as we parent kids.
So what are some practical ways that you allow yourself to not get caught up by the day-to-day motions that try to keep you from dreaming, the busyness of that? What do you do to make sure you still have the ability to dream?
So I ask myself questions. So I'll write myself a question that I don't currently know the answer to. And then I will think about it or pray about it and then just kind of see where that goes. So I really believe journaling and asking good questions that, man, wouldn't it be cool to know the answer to this? And without already knowing and having no bias as to what the answer is. And just see, then that's where dreaming and imagination. But you have to protect the time, and which I do, every morning. I do that every single morning. So that's something I do not want to give up. It's a routine, something I look forward to, and I'll do some reading, and I'll do some dreaming, and a lot of times I'll have a question at the top of the yellow pad.
Every morning.
And that's what facilitates it for me. I just don't start
There's
dreaming.
a nugget right there. Every morning he schedules time to think on a high level and dream with a question, though.
Need a
Start
question.
it with a question that you don't know the answer to at that morning. That's powerful. I'm going to do that. I'm going to steal
do
that.
that too. I think I'll
There's a
add
nugget.
that in.
I'm going to
Yes.
get that right now into my life. That is, there's the Todd Father right there in the midst of it. That's his nickname he just found out about.
The supernatural, I was taught just last year the power of just praying, asking God to do supernatural things and to be on the lookout for that and to anticipate it. And so that's changed my life, and that started last year in February. So it's amazing how, you no matter what age you are and you think you've learned a lot, really your biggest learning is still ahead of you. Peter Drucker was asked, how many books did he write? Like 100 books. Somebody asked him, well, what's your favorite book that you've ever written? He was 94 years old, somewhere like that in the 90s, and his answer was the next one.
Wow.
So I just think we never stop learning, and the best way to motivate and dream is with a question.
Wow. Nuts to bolts. What's one way that you dream, that you make sure you protect that time for high-level thinking and dreaming?
I just think it starts with making it a priority, and then finding out how you do it, because everyone doesn't learn the same way. So some may write dreams on, a whiteboard. They may do a dream book. You may do journaling. Dreaming is almost like a GPS. You say, this is where I want to go. And there are 5 routes, and you want to avoid the highways, you want to avoid the, detour spots, the troublesome areas and whatnot. So figuring out how you're going to go and being flexible, almost like rigid flexibility with your dreams. Because the dreams that you have at 20 may not be the same dreams you have at 30. And that's okay, to lean into it, but be willing to, let it shift and maybe go higher or actually go deeper. Maybe you were a little more materialistic at a certain age, and then you start to say, you know what? One small example, my old pastor would say, we have dreams of taking our kids to, the theme parks and, all the glitzy places. And he said, but the truer experience with your family is taking them to the national parks and taking them to experiences that would settle into their souls versus just, spending money and getting, toys, because all those go away. But what are the experiences? So again, that's just a shift, and you may or may not co-sign with that, but that's an example of where you may have had a dream in left field and now you're moving to right field, and that's okay. Just learn to just go with, your growth. The reason you're different is because you're not the same person. And every day you wake up, we have this chance. It's like a clean slate. What am I going to put on it? I have a choice. The chalk is in my hand. What am I going to write? This is my board. And everyone else has their own board, right? Give people their space and honor their dreams. And, hopefully they'll do the same for you as well.
Yeah. So we have time for maybe.
Say one
yeah,
more.
please.
So on the dream too is believe it can come true. One of our franchisees in Indiana, they had some things changed in their life, and they called me one night, 8 p.m., and seeking some counsel, and they said, we're just kind of wanted you to maybe try to help us figure out what to do. And I go, well, what's your dream? And they're like, our dream? And he goes, well, our big dream would be like someday we'd move to Florida. That's what he said. I go, well, why don't we start there? In other words, they were just already quickly dismissing their big dream. And within 2 years, they're living here.
Wow.
You know, it's like happily ever after. So, and they sold their business up there, but they just like admitted, they already knew what their dream was, but they weren't pursuing it.
Just started with the end
And
in
once
mind,
they
with the dream.
decided, you know
Yeah.
what, let's talk about how that could become a reality, well, then they started talking about selling their
Right.
business, moving to Florida. Now 2 of their grown kids have followed them here. So they're
So their
living a
target
dream
directed
world.
their-
and
their-
it's
their
24 degrees
effort.
up there, and it's
That's awesome.
74 here today. So
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's huge. You start with the end in mind, and you got to start with the dreams. My guys know that. They're doing their dream line. We're going to get that very soon, aren't we, guys? All right. So, are there any other questions in person? But we also have the one online. Raise your hand if you have one in person. All right, we'll go to the online.
The question from online comes from Josh Weiss. What are the daily habits that someone can implement to keep a healthy mindset?
What are the daily habits
Yeah, daily habits.
to keep a healthy? That's his CEO of his company, so we'll let you go.
I think the way you start the day is the way you can end the day, almost like a sandwich, right? So starting with gratitude and ending with gratitude. If we know those are going to be the 2 slices of bread. So that means you're waking up thinking, okay, I know I'm going to be accountable to myself before getting out of the bed, before my feet hit the floor. I'm going to tell God 3 things I'm grateful for. Just that alone will help you to get started on the right foot. And then seeking out the things that you know that in the end you're going to say, again, 3 things you're grateful for. Because setting the course, I believe, puts you in a mindset that you're actually magnetizing things in your direction that are going to be a blessing, or that you can be used to be a blessing for. Even asking in a daily format, God, put someone in front of me I can bless today. Give me a situation where you can use me to make an impact on someone else. And then that way you're getting out of your own head. It's not just, sitting on Santa's lap saying, gimme, 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 but how can I be used? Who can I touch today? Show me, speak to me throughout the day, and help me to listen, and help me to see you, and help me to hear you. So I think a big part of the mental aspect is being in touch with God and a communication with Him and holding His hand through the day. Daddy, which way do we go? Over here, Because if it's just about you, you're going to miss some things. You're going to absolutely miss some things. And He has a way of just guiding you and protecting you and saying, stop one step short of danger. But if you don't tune in, you'll absolutely miss it. So my focus would be to go to God first and just have that leaned in relationship with Him so that He can guide you. But you gotta listen to Him, because if He says do it and you're saying that doesn't make sense, or I'm not calling them, whatever, follow through. Just trust Him and build that relationship where you would be able to see it's something that you can rely upon and something that you can literally, sign off on with complete confidence.
I love the gratitude sandwich.
Gratitude
So
sandwich.
tomorrow's going to be a gratitude sandwich day for me. I could not agree more. And I would encourage you, as a good habit, is to journal just a little bit about what you are thankful for each day. Because it's amazing how many times I go back and read that, and I forgot about those things already.
Yeah.
And I could look back, and you talk about somebody that's in a valley. One of the best ways to get them out is if they've journaled, to go back and start reading, and they start to see, man, I remember that was a problem. And so then you start to, it reminds me of how God's worked in my life. And it's almost embarrassing sometimes, the things that I've forgotten that He's done. And so when we go back and read it, builds our confidence, reminds us of those experiences, which helps us move forward. But I agree. My wife just asked me this yesterday. Tell me what that looks like for you in the morning, and because I get up earlier than she goes to bed later than I do, and I get up a lot earlier than she does. But same thing. First thing I do is thank God for a good night's sleep, and then I just give him the day. Then I just pray you'll live through me today. And then when before we go to bed, we each share with each other something that we're thankful for that happened that day.
Gratitude sandwich.
Yeah,
I
so
like
I
that.
never called it that, so that's my big takeaway
I
for tonight.
love that gratitude. All right, so that was thank you, Josh. You are awesome. We appreciate that question. It's a solid question. You guys have fun tonight? Was this good? That's our hour and a half right there. Went quick.
Yeah.
Always does. Always does. Guys, I would definitely encourage you to ask some more questions. I'm sure you can easily get some contact info or just follow. You guys have social media? Instagram or Facebook or anything?
Now go ahead, share your website.
Yeah, your
so we know how
website.
to
We
get
both
your
of you
book.
guys. Both your books, and how
So
can people follow you?
My website is Make Time for Coaching,
Make Time for Coaching.
maketimeforcoaching.com.
Okay.
And on there is a link to my library. I have some books and pamphlets and things of that nature that will help build you up. That's on a separate site, Vibrant Life Books. So my company is called Vibrant Life Coaching. I'm all about vibrancy and just, the whole fulfillment of the purpose. So Vibrant Life is my tag. But Make Time for Coaching. And a lot of it is about learning about yourself. And that's something we didn't discuss, but a lot of it is just emotional intelligence and how you interpret yourself and how you interact with other people and how you deal with stress. All of that starts with how you feel about yourself. And I think, like I mentioned automatic pilot before, that we just go through without even wondering, well, how did I really feel about that? I know I said, oh, yeah, sure, I can help, but how did I really feel about that? Okay, that means everything has a ripple effect. And so to not process things through and understand what your role in it is kind of short changing yourself and not really getting the whole experience. We had a recent sermon series on emotions, right? So emotional quotient and on emotions, and things like grief and sadness and anger and hurt are as equally valuable as joy and peace and happiness. It's the whole gamut of emotions that we need to be in tune with so that we can have the biggest takeaways, the richest takeaways. So that's just some of the things that I like to talk about when I talk about strengthening the soul, because an emotionally intelligent baby will not rise to the occasion of the big challenges that come through life. So building up your emotional quotient, your emotional intelligence, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Well, I'm so grateful that you and Corvelli are founding members of CRES, and my wife, you coach my wife, and I'm just so proud of her and what you've done in her life as a coach and as a friend, and just being there in her life, especially after we lost her mom, coming off 4 years ago. It's been real tough, and to see her even this month just crushing goals and making herself a priority, and just thank you so much for pouring into women, for specifically pouring into my wife. How can other women? Could you specifically coach women, 30 plus? So how can a woman who's interested in having you either join one of your masterminds or having you do one-on-one coaching or getting information from you, how could somebody get a hold of you right now to have you coach them? Because this is on streaming, and so there's a lot of people around the country that can be watching this at this time. And so
Sure. So again, I made a kind of a funnel website. So the Make Time for Coaching, you get there, you can find all my contact information. MakeTimeForCoaching.com.
Make time, MakeTime,
For
for
coaching.
FOR
FOR coaching.
coaching.com.
Yeah.
All spelled out. MakeTimeForCoaching.com. Because, ladies, this is absolutely a woman you want in your corner speaking into you. Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. So, Todd, let's talk a little bit about how can people buy your books and all. I love your books are unbelievable. I love your books.
They're all on Amazon. I don't have a
that
website. The company website's officepride.com, but the books are on Amazon.
People
so
can own
Todd
a business
Hopkins,
through you, right?
The
Office
B Word or Stress Less Business Owner, everything's there. The janitor. So that's the way to find me.
Todd
if you want
Hopkins.
to reach me, LinkedIn is that's my only social media that I'm I'm on LinkedIn, Todd Hopkins.
Yeah, so spell your name so everyone can search you on Amazon and buy your book. Buy the books; they're awesome. I need a copy of that book. I'm an avid reader, so I want to read that.
Okay.
I read his. I haven't read yours. That's the first time I've ever seen yours. I know you had one. You've been holding out on me.
Yes, I have. I don't tell you everything, Jeremy.
All right, so Todd, how do you spell your name so they can find you on Amazon?
T-O-D-D, Todd.
Todd.
Todd
last name.
Hopkins.
T-O-D-D. Just search
But
Todd.
Don't ask me to spell anything else. I am a diehard entrepreneur, and
That is one of my favorite things you've
I
ever said.
know how to spell my name.
I love that. That's a rabbit
I was
trail.
waiting for you to spell coaching.
Oh, I think I stopped.
You stopped right before
I
you got
forgot.
to the big word.
Oh man, I did stop because what made me realize like I want to hang out with Todd more was the first time I ever met you. You were on a whiteboard and we were in this like room, and you were spelling, and I loved it because you messed the word up. You go, it's okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to learn how to spell. And I struggled to spell my whole life, and you said that I was like, I got freedom.
The funny
I'm an
part,
entrepreneur. I don't need to know how to spell.
there was 8 entrepreneurs in the room, and
None
none
of
of
us
them
caught
knew
it.
that I misspelled the
None
word.
of us caught it. So you remember
Could
that.
have not said anything and made
That's
it just
funny.
fine. Hey, Ben, thanks for having us.
Thank
It
you
was a
guys
good
for
time.
coming.
Yes, thank you so
and
much.
so give it up for Coach Kim and Todd
Thank you,
Hopkins.
Todd.
Come on.
Yes.
These guys are awesome. Thanks again for coming to our
Yes.
CRES Chat. We're gonna do them every the last Thursday of every month, and so we're working on a whole new schedule for the new year. I think we may do one next month. We're up in the air because it's Christmas time.
Right.
But we're just and thanks again if you're new to this whole concept with CRES. CRES is a private community space, and we focus on quality community that you're going to thrive here, connect here, and dream here. And it's a space for all your health and anything that you really need. It's an ancillary form to just help you live your healthiest life possible. That's why we do these. We're currently recording weekly podcasts, which I'd love for you guys to be on the Let's Get Coffee podcast that'll start releasing in the next few weeks. But yeah, follow us online, Instagram, CRES Community, Facebook, and then set up a tour through our website. Come and check out the space. That's where we are right here. It's our flagship location in Tampa, Florida, 5101 North Rome Avenue. Give it up again for these amazing speakers, Todd and Kim. They're awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for
Thank you,
coming out.
Jeremy.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. See you guys.
Yes.
Thanks.